Hello guys, so welcome to our session 7. So we are looking at how do we integrate Starknet. How do we integrate Starknet with the front end? Because at the end of the day, we want to come up with a working product. Maybe you are building something, but then at the end of the day, you want to present something, that you can show to your users. So that's what basically this is about. So basically that's this session. So we are trying to see how we can connect our front end to the back. So basically, so we are going to see how you can interact with the blockchain, by leveraging uh, front end tools like Starknet.js, Starknet React. So basically, that's what we are going to look into. Because at the end of the day, you want to have users who are using your platform. So basically, that's what we are gonna look at. So this is our session 7, and we are only left with one session. So after this, you should be able to to integrate your front end properly with a custom back end on the blockchain. So still I'm the tutor. You can follow me at Bossa Josh, and then you can follow SwiftRamp at SwiftRamp. So we are going to be using so Starknet.js basically we can understand it as an open source JavaScript library that allows developers to interact with Starknet. So basically you are trying to you have a library where you can use some JS libraries to interact with Starknet. So a provider is an API. So basically, provider is an API from Starknet.js. So it's you just call it from Starknet.js. So it enables you to interact with Starknet without necessarily signing messages. So in other words, it brings Starknet in context that basically you can read calls from a contract and then states without sending messages. So you cannot, with the provider using it, in this case with the provider API, you can only read, you cannot write or alter the contract state. So the signer API allows us to sign messages. So in other words, it gives us power to write to the blockchain, and then you can as well modify or alter the contract stage. Let me change this view right here. So you can modify and alter the contract state. So that's the difference between a provider. A provider you just read, but then the signer you can write and modify. So in Starknet, to interact with the blockchain, first of all, I think it was our first session where we looked at where we are talking about the architecture of Starknet. So you have to interact with blockchain. So you have to first create an account Yeah, and after creating the account, so this brings in context the provider API and then the signer API. So through the account, we can make read and write calls to the blockchain state, and thus it's often used. So this account is quite the account API is quite used a lot. Like because oftenly we read and write to the states. So Starknet React has a tool, of course. Starknet React is part of. I can say it's it's part of it's embedded in Starknet.js. So Starknet React has a hook that has a hook. So hooks help us, communicate. They help make our front end so easy and efficient. So these hooks help enable us to access it. So you can use the user account hook. So contracts in Starknet is how we instantiate our contracts in the front end using JS. So it takes in parameters such as the contract address, contract ABI, and the provider. So we are gonna look at all this in details. So I know right now we're just I'm trying to introduce it to us theoretically, but we are gonna look at it in details. So contracts is how we instantiate our contracts in the front end. So you have a contract and yeah, so instantiating it takes in contract address, contract ABI. So there are a couple of front end tools that we are going to be using for this session. First of all, there is Starknet Kit, which is a development kit that enables developers to. So Starknet Kit, I think it's a development kit. It's an SDK being made by the Ready team, Agent X team. So when you integrate it gives you a seamless integration with Starknet. Maybe you want to transfer funds from one wallet address to another. So it seamlessly enables you to connect Starknet native wallets like Braavos and Agent X to your app. So Starknet contains hooks which can be used. So we're going to see Starknet React in action as well. So then this session is purely going to be so technical, so practical. So let me go. So let me see right here. So we are going to follow some good example, a very good example. So I'm gonna be using this. I'm gonna be getting my resources from Starknet Edu. Starknet Edu is basically like a place where you find a lot of Starknet education resources. Is what I'm gonna be using a lot. So I'm going to make a few changes in some of the repository which they used to which they used when they were creating a frame during one of the Basecamp. So this is a repository Starknet Edu. It's taking quite some time. Let me alerts as well open. we're going to be working in Next.js. Right out. So let's open this right there. So we are going to follow this. We're going to follow this repository for the front end when we are going to make a few changes. So we are going to be using Next.js. So there are a lot of tools right now to use. So let's first explore some of these tools as this loads up properly. So there is a tool called Starknet Scaffold. So this is a tool. It really helps to create a good. It's really helping a lot to create a good implementation of a front end in connection with the back end on Starknet. So this is it right here, Starknet Scaffold. So it's open source. So it helps you to set up. So when you're using Starknet Scaffold, it gives you like a skeleton which you're supposed to use to build upon. So it has two parts, both for the back end and the front end. So making it easier for us to build dApps. So let me try and open it and show it to us. Maybe as it's opening, so you have to install Next.js first. So Next.js is known for people who have been using React a lot. Next.js shouldn't be hard to work to cope up with. So let me check here, installation. So then if at all you have it installed, so I'm saying you need Node.js. So it works on all OS. It can work on Mac OS, it can work on Windows, it can work on Linux. So we go ahead and create a project right here. So you just come here and copy this. After doing that, then want to proceed. So what is my project name? My front. So even you can just follow the promptings here. And yes, 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 yes. So by us doing that, then it's creating a project for us. So let us first go back to Starknet Scaffold. So Starknet Scaffold really helps us to build up seamlessly on on Starknet. Now, so guys, this is Starknet Scaffold. So yeah, it's an open source. So it's open source. So you, in case you want to install it, and in case you want to install it, you can just use it. That's not what I'm going to use for this session. But in case you want to to scaffold your DApp using it, you just click there. Yeah, you can actually do it this way. So this will follow the same procedure and then create you like the basic skeleton for your project. But so the only difference between this now here, since I don't need like the back end part, so I literally don't need it. So since I want to keep it a bit so minimal, so that's why I'm not using Starknet Scaffold, but it's a great tool at least. I've used it quite often. So yeah, it's you can check it out. It gives you a way to write to the back end and then to as well write in the front end. So it's quite so easy to work with. Yeah. So then so our project has finished installing. So it's now initiated properly. So you can be able to see that I had called my project my front. So when I change directory to my front, now those are the files that come after I've initiated the project. So let me close this. So when I go here and so when I go here and open it in and I open it in, that's how it's so it comes with so these are the this is the code structure. So there is the layout TS. So it's there is Next.js by default uses TypeScript programming language. So it comes along with layout.typescript, page.typescript. Then we have some public files right here. So let me so I'm gonna follow some GitHub repository here. This is what I'm going to follow for this session. So if at all so this you can just fork it from this repo, Starknet Edu, and then Basecamp 11 up, so you can fork it from there. So if I tell you to look at this repo, it has a back end part for Starknet, like the usual way how we've been initiating Starknet smart contracts, but then it has a web part. So for me, mostly I'm interested in the web part. Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. So it has already a pre-deployed smart contract. So the smart contract, why I'm using is that the smart contract was already deployed. So it's so all I need now to do is to call the smart contract in. So what happens is that when you are joining when you're joining the front end to the back end, so when your code is compiled down and the smart contract is deployed, so it's bundled down into something called ABI. So ABI is like bytecode. So when you're calling in the front end, you're calling functions from within the ABI. Yeah. So that's what happens. Like you're not like everything gets bundled, like the whole smart contract gets bundled down to what to into an API. Now, literally in the front end, literally what we're trying to do is we're trying to interact with functions and logic in the API and then call events, call variables. So literally that's what takes place in the front end. So so if you are to try and check this structure right here, you will see that there is ABIs. So there is this ABI, it's an ABI file. So this is what I'm trying to talk about. So our smart contract, our smart contract, our smart contract gets bundled into something of this sort. So you have type, you have name, you have an interface, you have a function. So literally that's what happens. And then as well you have the variables. So now these are what we call in the front end. Yeah. So I'm just going to follow this same structure and implement to us the various hooks, the various functions that we can work with in our front end as we saw them in the slides. So yeah, so I need under SRC, which is this. So I need a folder to handle to store my ABI. So this can be ABIs. And then here I can put ABI.ts. So since I'm gonna use a contract address which basing on this smart contract. So this smart contract is called counter. So if I were to check it out, let me open it here for us to see. So this smart contract is called counter. So this smart contract right here is called counter. And so guys, for Starknet Edu is basically people like for resources on everything about Starknet. So this smart contract is right by traded deployed, so we don't need to write it again. We can just call it. Or is it? Oh, I think it's not here, but it's a counter smart contract, for decreasing the counter, for decreasing the counter, for increasing the counter. Yeah, so let us follow along. So now under ABI, this is gonna remain the same. So this is the ABI you get after the the your smart contract has been deployed. Yeah. So we copy it right here. So this is our ABI. It's stored as a TS file. So so under here, so this is the structure. So we're going to follow the same structure. So APIs, then under app is where there is so APIs is supposed to be into SRC. So under app we have the layout page. Then under, let's create another folder to handle creating of components under SRC. So that is under components. Then we are as well going to have another one to enable us create any utility. So utilities, this can be like helper functions, anything of that sort. Yeah. So this is supposed to be lib. Let me rename this to lib. So under lib is where we have utils.ts. So under utils.ts, we have that helper function. So there's so under components. So let's look at our components. So a lot is gonna be so similar. So under components right here, I have a folder called UI. So then under UI, I have a folder here, provider, the TSX. And under UI as well, I have another file called wallet bar, the TSX. So let me just try to run for us like a complete front, how our front end is going to look like. So this is how the front end is going to look like. Let me run it here. So npm start. Okay, so yes, I'm supposed to first change directory to the web, to the front end. So copy link right here. So I want to show us like how our final front end is. So let me run it. There is a lot of good resources on this repository for Starknet Edu, so you can check them out. It's really, so this is our front end is going to look like. So basically what we are trying to do is we're trying to try out most of these most of these essential functions or hooks. So basically, for example, how do I connect to the Braavos? How do I connect to Agent X? So basically, we said that the agent Starknet agent kit eases that a lot. And then if at all I want to as well refresh or like my activity, maybe trying to refresh. So we are going to have a functionality for that. Then we're going to have a functionality for this is when you're writing to the contract. Maybe you have a function in the smart contract, for example, like increase counter. So increase counter affects the state of of the blockchain. So in that, it means that it consumes gas fees. So to execute this function, you must have gas fees. Yeah, you must have Ethereum. So you must have gas fees in form of Ethereum. It's in form of ETH. Sorry, in form of ETH, the token for Ethereum. So and then this one is basically to reset the balance. So basically, we just want to kind of try out the various functions and see how we can play around with these functions on the blockchain in a smart contract. So basically our that's how our front end is gonna look like, something so basic. Here we have right here we have a wallet bar. So this wallet bar basically is going to help us. It's going to help us. So this is the wallet bar right here. Yeah. So it's going to help us to connect to the wallet address, to the wallet. So it can connect either to Braavos or to Agent X, which is now ready. So basically, I don't need to rewrite this code, so I'm just going to copy it for paste it right here. So this is a use connect hook. So but basically you can see that our in our editor is complaining that there is no this package, so I have to first install it. And so Starknet React is a collection of the following packages, as I said: Stan, Stack Query, Starknet.js, and this other. So uh, after we've installed Starknet React, that means it's now our code should not return any errors. So let me check it out. So here is supposed to be a closure. So in our code you can see and recall, guys, that this code I've forked it from this main repo. So you see how we use the connectors. So we have the use connect, use disconnect, use account, and all these help to connect the account, the wallet address. Yeah. So basically that's how you use them. So you can see here that you, here we're trying to destructure it. Then we see here from user account will give us access to the address. Yeah. So here so from this portion of code, when I try to run this, So session 7. Let me try and run the already built app. Let me try and run. So basically, we're using the use connect and use disconnect to connect from here. So basically, that's the use. So that's why when I tap on that, it's supposed to prompt Braavos. It's supposed to prompt Braavos to connect. So you can see that it's connected. So basing on my code, uh, it's supposed to do that. So that's what I want to show us. So now that we have one component, that's the wallet bar, then we have to as well create the provider. So as we call a provider, does not modify the state. Yes. So because in the provider you're trying to embody everything like the Starknet React, like the front end where the front end frame, everything is supposed to embody it into a Starknet provider. So you cannot, there's no way you are going to access Starknet. Yeah, there's no way how you are going to access the contract state if at all you have not like embodied everything in the provider. So basically that's what a provider does. So to try and show it to us first, so we have here, we have to first, so in this case we are using Sepolia. So here we import Starknet config and make it right here. So after forking it, so now I'm following this code here, but I want to add to. So here we are importing Braavos, we are importing agent, we are because we are injecting the provider, so that's why we import that. Then you have to import the RPC. So the RPC is like the main connection to the node. Yeah, so that's why we import that JSON RPC provider. Then Voyager is basically like an explorer to check after maybe an activity on the blockchain, basing maybe on a contract address. So that's what Voyager. That's the same thing that Scan does. So on doing that, so I don't want us to just so as you can see in this code, um, we get the connectors. So here we are trying to let it use agent X and Braavos. And then, so this is the main point of the connection to the Starknet to the front end. That's the main point of connection. So here, the children. So here, this Starknet configs like trying to wrap the entire application. So anything that goes under children here, it can be like an object, it can be, but in this case, it's wrapping the entire application under Starknet config. So it's best to do it like for this component for these higher order components. So because like they are the major components, like when execution starts, it starts from like page.tsx, page layout.tsx. So that's why it starts. So after that, so here there is cannot find name React node. What does that try to mean? Cannot find name React node. Okay. Uh, Let me look up this error. Try to look it up here. It's always good to like maybe you're stuck with something. So we have to import React node. Okay, I get it. So after doing that, so that's why guys, like, even though, oh, it was there, I didn't copy the code properly. Since this one is a client component, we add use client. Use client, and let's see something about the URL. So there's a button here, button component. Get your button, TSX. So this is how my button is. So basically our button, of course, it's an HTML component. So it has to have an interface. And then our button is taking in some props by this here. Then this is for the design, and so you can supply some. So the main essence of creating like a separate button component is that because we are going to use buttons in separate sections, so it's better to have one component, but then we just pass in different props. So that's the whole essence. So now that we are done with that, we can go right here. So now we can go to the page and layout. Okay. We first look at this. So at the layout, this is where you are now from. Because as I said, the layout is like the main is the first point of execution. Yeah. So the part where we need now to add in the providers. So a lot of this is not so necessary. So now let me rectify this. Yeah, so we are importing metadata. Metadata, this is like what is going to be passed like in the title, in the description, then so the font as well. So then the main point here is importing the providers and then embedding this, because now, as I said, the layout is like the main can I call it a component or main file where execution on the client side starts from. So before even the components, before the various sections of the application are checked out, so the this is like the entry point. So that's why when we are importing providers, I remember telling us that so the providers bring Starknet into context because we have initiated it by with like an RPC. So and then so after we've brought Starknet into context, now we have to make it take over the control of the application. So literally that's what it means. So then after doing that, so here now is where we're going to have our main one page. In the page.tsx file is where we're going to have a lot of work. So let me first delete everything here. So basically this is where we're going to try out the hooks, the various hooks that we have looked at. So basically we're going to try them out from here. So, but before we start, I would want us to first get the contract address. Yeah, so let me do this. Uh, so there are very many hooks here which we are going to. Yeah, so basically we start by telling that this is a use client. So this is the client component. It's not a server component. Then we are going to import use callback, use effect, use memo, and use ref. So let me put that there. Then so when I use this, it means so that what dynamic does is that it tries to make sure that the component does not load like all the heavy stuffs like frequently. That's what dynamic that's what dynamic components do. So then I import that. So after importing that, because I'm going to be needing to get the to play around with the user account. So there are hooks from Starknet React, like getting the block number, getting the account number. So use send transaction when you're transferring. So basically it's that. Then after doing that, now we have to as well import this to get the RPC. And remember guys, we didn't install Starknet.js. So let's look up Starknet.js. So I have to first install it first, Starknet.js. Then go to the API. So, uh, um, so we install it from here. So it's finishing to install. So it has finished to install. Now my code editor should not be complaining. So then you as well have to import the API. So we also want to import some types because we are going to be, our API has different types. So let's go ahead and do that. So then also here, lead under utils. So there are some helper functions which we really need to work with. So one is put in the address because we don't need to show the entire address. We just need to show like the first six and then the last four. So that's what that helper function is helping us with. And then this one is to format the amount, maybe from a string to a decimal. So after doing that, now let's go back. So I'm following this repository. So this is my wallet bar. So I've made it dynamic. Yeah, and then here is my contract address. So after doing that, let me go ahead and create my, so we are making it a functional component. Making it a functional component. So first of all, we want to read the latest block from the blockchain. As you know, guys, every activity that is happening on the blockchain is a block added. So to get the latest block, gonna say, so we are going to use, so to get the latest block, we use this hook here called useBlockNumber. So useBlockNumber. So this is to destructure it. So it has attributes such as block number, then is loading, okay, then we also need is error in case there is an error. So this gives us the block identifier. So this is supposed to be in curly braces. So that is supposed to give us the block number. And so we want to, we are gonna give a certain duration for our workshop. So let's say 1.5. So I'm gonna put it in seconds times 3,600. So I'm taking here. So I'm taking a timeline of 5,400 seconds, which is equivalent 1.5 hours. So now I wanna read the latest block. So that's how you read the latest block. So now we're gonna try out and find the current balance. So to do that, we use a hook here called useAccount. This one here. So to do that, so it gives us this hook gives us access to the address. So our editor is complaining here that user country that must have a symbol.iterator. Okay, what are we doing wrong? Something we are doing wrong. Let me get this and put it in lipstick to see the error. So it's saying the error encountering suggests that you are trying to destructure. So, oh yeah, this is guys. This is sorry. This is supposed to be curly brackets, not non-square brackets. So that's how you destructure. So then here as well. So it's loading. So here we're going to use useBalance. Patch true is error. So here we're going to use balance is error. And the error so that's how we are using use balance right there. So now that one is supposed to give us access to get the balance. So after doing that, but here where is my editor complaining? So let me guess why it's complaining. Yeah, it's I want to find out why I'm having an error. Okay. Oh, so it's no, that will be sorted. So because in the end we are going to return, we have to return, we have to return. So it's complaining because right now we haven't yet defined the JSX elements. So for example, to now to solve that, you just save it and then see it's now okay. So then we go ahead. So now that we have read the balance, so we are remember we have to talk to the smart contract. So now this method here, this function here, is going to help us create a function that talks to the smart contract. So because we want to increase the counter, so that's what we're trying to do. So telling us to access the counter variable. So constant data. So here we are trying to, so to access the counter, we have to read from contract. So we are going to use a hook called useReadContract. So this is going to give us, so first of all, the function name which we are going to try and access is called getOrder. So this is the function name in the smart contract. Yeah. And is it taking in any arguments? No arguments. Then the ABI. So we had already imported our ABI. So so here what is, so this is supposed to be now column there. So now after doing that, contract address, then we are going to add like 10 seconds to, in case you don't get, yeah, we are not unable to read, supposed to refresh after, to refresh the interval at about 10 seconds. So in case you want to see what this function means, you just place above it and you say it's set to a number. The query will continuously refresh at its frequency in milliseconds. You set to a function, the function will be executed. So it tries to refresh at that number of seconds, milliseconds. So now we are, after doing that, then we have to increase the counter on the contract. So this is a, that means this is a sort of like a post request. So it adds, it consumes gas fees because it's a post request. Then I come here and then I say cost amount, set amount. So in case it's not a number here, so we're trying to say yeah, at least it's greater than 0. So so I have an issue right there, so I have to rectify it. So let me use, let's see here. So So let me try to solve that error. So the error occurs because you're trying to destructure use state. So, okay. Let me try to add that. So now after doing that, we also handle. So now because we are trying to increase the counter, and it's a function which is a post request, like it writes to the blockchain, so meaning that it consumes gas fees. So you must have a way how you are handling it. So this is supposed to be a form element. Because we're trying to submit, like after increasing the counter, we are trying after so on pressing to increase the counter, it's like we try to submit, so that's why we are handling it. So I'm having an error here. Let me look it up here. So let me try to. So okay, this is how it's supposed to be. So then this write async method, we are going to access it. We are going to define the write async method. But before we do that, let's define the type of the API. So after doing that, it's gonna take in the typed ABI. So this is supposed to be in curly braces. So after doing that, then we are going to use memo. So this is also a hook, but I want us to understand why are we using use memo. So you can just search it here. Let's search it there. What does use memo hook do? So in React, it's a performance optimization tool that captures the result of a computation between renders. So it avoids expensive recalculations. Yeah. So in case we don't want to re-render, so that's when it comes into place. Yeah. So let's go ahead. So we are trying to make calls, right, to our contract. So but before we proceed, we either have to have a user address or the contract must be there. So and then here return. So when making a call, it's like, so this is a method. It's in Starknet.js. So we are trying to make a call to a contract. So we are populating. So populating is like a method. Yeah. So now the actual method from the smart contract which we are pinging is the increase counter. So after doing that, but then what don't you want to re-render every time? So we don't want the contract to re-render because it will be expensive for us. And then the user address, that's what we are avoiding every time there is a re-render. Those ones are excluded. Then as well, now let's go. So now we are going to address the write async method from here. So when we are here, we are using the use send transaction because we are trying to write to the blockchain. So it's the one we are using. So then here, so in the send method, It's where we are going to have that write async method from. So this method has the send, then it has the data which is being returned, the rate data. And is pending. So now we want to, how do we get this data? So after we've written, we have to get a transaction receipt. So under here we can have the transaction hash. So let us, so if at all is right data is true, then where is my, okay, if at all the right data is true, then we're gonna have the transaction hash, comma, and then match to true. So I'm having an error here. Yeah. So if at all right data is there, we want to get the transaction hash. So we're just finding ways of how to handle errors. So after doing that, so we want to have a component which handles loading of data. So just add some small styling here. Then we want as well to show the message on loading. Then since we are going to have, like, we are going to use the same button in most of the components, so let's go ahead and find a custom button component right here. Why are we having an error? Oh, so this is supposed to be, okay. So I think I'm gonna rectify that. Let me say wait is loading here. I don't know why I didn't add is pending. Okay. So this is supposed to be, so is pending is here. Okay, so this is supposed to be, this is supposed to be right. So I didn't the structure. I didn't the structure that is pending properly. So this is supposed to be write is pending. Okay, so after doing that, if write is pending, then if wait is loading, so we want to handle all cases. Maybe on pressing send, then we are trying to ascertain. So in case maybe the the you don't have any gas fees, so the transaction is rejected. So in case there are enough gas fees, the transaction go through. We also want to return that use case. Then here we have to handle if wait status is equal to error. What do we want to do if at all we have an error? Transaction rejected. So now if at all we have a success, what should we display here? Just display transaction confirmed. So basically that's what we're trying to do. So then overall end, yeah, supposed to say and send. So this is the text that will appear on the button. So guys, we may not handle all hooks, but so at least we have seen that. So but then we must have a way as well how we handle the the provider. So we must have a way how we are doing that. How are we handling the provider? Since we're using Sepolia, we are going to be, but meanwhile, let's first check out our, let us first check out our what we've done, how are they appearing in the front end. So to do that, so I'm defining, coming up with a suitable front end. So I don't think we need to reset the balance. So I just want us to have a component which is showing first. Okay. Start by doing that. So let me give this. Let me add a way to connect the wallets. Hello guys, so our front end is looking like this. So we are going to make few adjustments. First, we are going to first connect to to add the white bar component to enable users to connect using either Braavos or Starknet. So let's go about that. So we're just trying to, to style a little bit the front end. So let's add the wallet bar component. Let's go ahead and see how our code is looking like. So this enables us to connect to Braavos or so you see when I tap connect it the Braavos wallet connection pops up. Now we want as well to the latest block. How do we read the latest block? So because we had already destructured some of these things. So to read the latest block, we are going to use uh, block number is loading. Yeah, first we have to ensure that there is no block number is loading error. So let's go about that and see. Block number. So we're attempting to read the latest block. It's complaining that there is no block number data. This is supposed to be small b. Still complaining. Why? Let me first leave that a bit. X large. So yeah, I'm just trying to come up with a good design. So read the blockchain. Let me center that text. Now let me return the actual block data. Block number data. Anyways, let me first leave this and try to get the balance. So in the balance, still I want to ensure that balance is loading. It's so let me go ahead. So let me now display the balance here. You can see that, guys, it connects properly. It connects properly to the so when I try, let me add my password. So you can see that it connects properly. Okay, I wanted to us to have another to see how we can return the return something like the block. How do I read the latest block data? That's what I wanted. So let me try and check this out from the GitHub. Let me try and check this out, right? How do I read the latest block data? Okay, so okay, I think I have to follow this a little bit. What is block number data? Okay, how come I don't have this? Let me see. I think I was having an error somewhere. So this right here is supposed to be block. think that's where the error is coming from. That's where the error is coming from. So the latest block. So how do I read the latest block? So let me So I get the parent block from the block number data. So let's see how our front end is looking like. Okay. So let me give this text of black. Then as well I give this text of black. So you can see that's our current block. So I'm not going to implement all the methods, but so this was basically more of a simple connection to show us how can we connect to to our smart contract. Yeah, but basically this repository brings out everything properly, so you can follow it up, and yeah, it's easy at least to follow along with. But basically that's a I just wanted to show us how basically you can try to read from the contract. So basically that was the major essence of the session. So for these other ones, for the other methods, you can follow along in this repository. Yeah. So this was sometime a front end workshop as well, or the Starknet Basecamp. Yeah. So, but basically you can follow along. Everything is in order. Everything is well detailed, so it's easy to grasp everything. So I'm gonna end there for now. So thank you so much, guys, and yeah.